What's up guys, this is Chad Daddy here, back with another Aberrus Disc-Priest POV guide and commentary. This one in particular is of my 181k HPS Forgotten Experiments pull. And this fight is very easy for Disc-Priest in my opinion at the start, and it has a lot of potential for you to fall apart a little bit later on, as you'll probably see here. And also, one very important thing I want to mention before I start this video as well, is that I've killed this boss as a mass dispeller and a non-mass dispeller. And if you are mass dispelling and mana is tight, you may need to not go as wide with your ramps. There may also be difficult overlaps with the mass dispels. But if you have an innervate, you shouldn't have too big an issue if you have another priest helping you. At the start, you are going to be ramping for Bellowing Roars, which, starting from 10 seconds into the fight, deal damage every 30 seconds to the raid, depending on proximity to Neldris. So the way that I did this was that I asked my raid leader for a 15-second pre-pull timer, and then I ramped a little bit earlier on my first ramp, as you'll see here, allowing me to cycle Shadow Covenant, for example, a little bit earlier, which made the timing for the following Bellowing Roars a little bit easier. So, I think I start ramping at 13, yep, pretty much. And you're gonna see me use Shadow Covenant very early, because of the long Shadow Covenant talent. It doesn't actually matter, so long as you're fitting it into your damaging spells and hitting it into your atonements. So you see I activate Shadow Covenant here, and Evangelism was also pressed very early. And into this I Halo, and then I crank. Now, the next ramp is gonna be my Rapture ramp, obviously, and unlike my Kasara video, I obviously played it properly here and use the Rapture ramp to cycle my Light's Breath. Now, this ramp should be started when it's 15 seconds left on the second war. This allows you to have some leeway with your cast of Light's Breath as well here, as you'll see. And also allows you to cycle your Shadow Covenant a little bit earlier than you'd need, usually, which lets it come back up for the third roar. And I think that I was actually a little bit late here, which will mean that it will barely be up, but that's okay. Now for this third roar, it's kind of a mini ramp, so I started ramping generally around 12 seconds left. This one was a bit late. I have 2 instant procs here though, which helped me a lot, and then I crank. Okay, so now I'm gonna pause. So the way this boss works, obviously, is that everything is dependent on your DPS. Your guild may choose to do this in different ways. Maybe they hold DPS, for example, in which case things would probably or maybe be a bit less applicable. But you'll have to adjust that as you see fit. Anyway, when Tadrian comes down, we obviously gain a new damage event, the Violent Eruption. Now, this one deals way more damage than the Bellowing Roar, but it's over a longer period of time. But this is actually our new focus, so we want to hit the Eruption with our Evangelism or Rapture. But, because the Violent Eruptions are 55 seconds apart, we can cycle our Radiance in between that can be used to help heal the Rending Charges or the debuff that's coming out now. And now you're seeing me go into my second Evangelism, hitting the first Violent Eruption. So I start this ramp at around 11 seconds left on the Bigwigs timer, and the reason for this is because the timer is a bit deceitful, since when it reaches 0, Tadris casts Violent Eruption for another 3 seconds. So starting at 11 allows me to hit a larger portion of the damage event. And as for watching the tail end of the ramp here, we actually saw something I think is important to mention. Depending on DPS done to Neldris, so depending on your guild's DPS, this ramp will at least quite likely coincide with the Neldris being in execute phase. Make sure that Shadow Death is used, if that is the case, as it is a very powerful button you can use on the move. So, back to what we're seeing, we can look at Bigwigs and notice that the next eruption is coming up. I am not ramping. My fight fell apart here, and you'll see me try to pick things up. And I'll try to explain what my exact thought process was. So I knew I had to ramp for the eruption, but saw the early deep breath and my focus shifted pretty much in its entirety. I noticed too late that I'd missed my ramp, but I knew I had to pick it back up somehow. And if you are late with a ramp, I think it is better to just not go as wide, but like at least try to get the ramp out and kind of rolling. And because Violent Eruption is a damage event that goes on for a longer period of time, I announced in voice chat that I had a tail-ended ramp for the eruption, to try to pick the things back up, kind of. And moving onwards, we can see that I have the Unstable Essence debuff. And I need to move to our Dispel area because of it. But I'm also trying to get my Evangelism out here before the Deep Breath. But as you can see here, I panic a little bit and end up using Evangelism poorly and just not getting much DPS uptime on the boss because he's moving around for the Deep Breath. This is a mistake. Avoid ramping such that your DPS portion of your ramp occurs during a Deep Breath phase. So you can do better than this for sure. I'll let the rest of the video kind of go on with the music, as there is not much more to the fight with just Ryantus left. I try to keep myself organized by watching my Vandalism here and my Rapture, and Shadow Covenant as well for my mini ramp. It gives me an idea of when I can ramp for the raid damage going out, and I try to keep an eye on the Deep Breath timer to the extent that I can. You'll also probably see me help out a little bit with the orbs.